Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with me, Christian Harris. What can we learn from insurance companies about safety? How can we partner up with them to achieve better outcomes for our customers, our staff, our organizations, and them as insurers too? Those are the topics that we cover today in this Safety Roundtable recording with Rob Beesley of AXA XL, which is a large insurance company. Rob and I talk all of those topics and we take questions from the audience as well. If you deal with safety, if you have anything to do with insurance and claims, you'll learn something from this. And I think it's really interesting to see the evolution of how insurance can help and support and partner up with us to do better in safety. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Cheers.
Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with Christian Harris. We believe that proactive safety and risk management powers business performance. Each week we explore this theme, sharing guests, stories, insights, trends, hints and tips. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, and video versions are available on YouTube. But for now, let's join the conversation with Christian.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Safety Roundtable, where I'm delighted to be joined by Rob Beesley of AXA XL, which, if you don't know, is a multinational insurance company. And we're going to be speaking about how insurers view safety. Rob is involved, as he'll tell us in a second, in the writing of insurance policies within what insurance companies call Casualty, which is all about accidents. So where people get hurt and seek to bring a claim against a company. So we're going to speak about how insurers see safety and some of the things that AXA XL do to try and support their clients with this, rather than sort of being, I suppose, somebody who is picking up the bill, somebody who's a partner and is trying to work together to reduce risk and make the world a safer, healthier and better place. So if you don't know about insurance, if you do know about insurance, I'm sure you'll get something from this session today. If you've not attended one of these Safety Roundtable sessions before, it's an interactive Zoom session. We cover a different topic each time. So in 2 weeks from today, actually, I've got Laura Orcott on, and we're going to be speaking about how to get your next safety role in 2025. So total change of pace. Typically, it's me and a guest. Sometimes it's me introducing a topic. It's very much designed to be an open discussion. So today, Rob and I are going to chat, but then we will open it up for questions, comments, and interventions. And do feel free to invite friends, colleagues, NEBOSH course colleagues, etc., along. The more, the merrier. So, welcome, Rob. Thanks for joining today. Perhaps you could start by, if people don't know what a casualty underwriter is, maybe you could start by just explaining kind of what that is in the first instance.
No problem at all. And thank you very much, Christian, for asking me to join you. It's a pleasure. And thank you everyone for tuning in today and giving time for this, which it's really appreciated. So a casualty underwriter really is someone who accepts risk on behalf of an insurance company. That risk being legal liability, protecting clients' legal liability, so protecting them financially and helping with defence in the event of a legal liability claim or being sued, being brought against them. And that's so we're setting premium terms and conditions, deciding whether or not to accept risk or not, and really how much risk to put out there. Sorry, there's lots more I could say about it, but that's in a nutshell, really, what it is.
No, that's perfect, and that's really useful context, just so people who might not be familiar with insurance kind of understand what your role is and where you sit. And just to confirm, obviously Rob works for AXA XL, but he's here today giving his opinions rather than nothing he says is kind of AXA XL policy or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um,
No, thank
don't
you.
let's not get into any difficulties around that. So Rob's very kindly giving up some time to share his views. Been doing
No,
this
pleasure.
for a long time. So when I go around and I speak to organisations and I mention the word insurance, sometimes I get maybe a slightly negative response. What would you say are some of the common misconceptions that safety professionals might have about the role of insurance within workplace safety?
Yeah, I think there is still in many places and in many ways a misconception that insurers are looking in terms of health and safety for potential breaches or looking for reasons to enhance claims defensibility, limit claims. I think there is that misconception, whereas really, on the contrary, there's very much a desire to work with clients and with the broking community to improve health and safety, encourage good behaviors, good practice, and reward and resource and help with resourcing good health and safety practice and procedures.
Yeah. And do you think that that kind of misperception is one that is lessening over time, or is it still kind of a tough nut to crack?
I think it is. I think it's definitely lessening. I think as people, I think as there's a perception more of insurers and the broking community again being far more proactive in terms of becoming business partners rather than say something more transactional or something where looking at where we can add and become, as I say, become more of a business partner to help clients through their journey
Yeah.
of health and safety.
Yeah. So, from an insurance company perspective, then, how important is it that perhaps this is an obvious question, but how important is it that their client is as safe as possible?
Yeah, I mean, there's on the one side, good health and safety undoubtedly means lower claims, uh, both in terms of frequency and severity. But from a client's perspective, and insurers, benefit together, it normally means higher productivity and a higher, better morale as well. And I believe that it generates like a virtuous circle. I'm a great believer in virtuous circles
Mm,
of excellence, productivity, and morale, and as well as it's simply the right thing to do.
yeah,
So which is important, of course. So
yeah, definitely agree. I talk about a concept I call profit from safety, which is kind of
right,
safety is a driver of profitability because of all those things and
mm,
that virtuous circle that you mentioned. So yeah, definitely
absolutely,
agree.
yeah,
Definitely agree with you on that one. So from your perspective, then, if you're looking at a
mm,
potential client and analysing that risk, how do you kind of assess or measure um, safety and then sort of that obviously, as you said, impacts on the premium that somebody's likely to pay.
yeah. Well, it's it's as an underwriter in an insurance company, you're always look on the one side at the empirical, the numbers, the number evidence, and the most tangible empirical way on that is to look at the claims experience, the number of RIDDOR incidents, and the development of those, and lost time incidents and absenteeism. But I can't help but wonder if there may be other ways of measuring it. I'm not entirely sure the adage that if you can't measure it, it didn't happen always applies here. So I know it'd be great to see some views from the floor on that as well, because I think it's really important on this that we learn from each other and so if there are other ways of measuring it as well, that'd be really interesting. Um,
Definitely, yeah. I think there'll be certainly some opinions on that. If
it's
anybody
good.
wants to share
Yeah,
anything, feel free to
yeah.
go to
Yeah.
reactions, raise your hand and let us know. Certainly, safety culture would be something that people would say would be a kind of leading indicator, let's say, of likely performance. Because I guess
Mm,
ultimately you're trying to balance off, here's the last 5 years or 10 years of data, and here's actually what's happening now. And obviously, because you're looking
yes,
forward, aren't you, rather than just looking back, so you're having to take a judgment.
absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. So what would be um, I suppose the benefits if you're kind of safer, or the downsides if you're less safe? And I use the speech marks deliberately.
Sure, sure. Well, I think the benefits, claims experience is good for both parties, insurers and clients. But also, the benefits will include a healthier, fitter workplace, higher morale, and just creating a much safer place to be, where there's certainly a sense of value created for employees and workplace culture in that.
Yeah. And would it be fair to say that, obviously every case is individual, but, on average, if you had two identical companies and one of them had 100 claims brought against it in the last 5 years, and one of them had two claims brought against it in the last 5 years, then that's going to have some kind of effect on the how you would perceive that. Um,
Sure.
yeah,
Yes. No. No. Definitely.
yeah, okay. Um, Obviously, we have a range of sectors, from sort of very high risk, like let's say
Mm,
mining or something like that, through to something that would be less high risk, maybe operating a commercial office building or something
yes.
like that. Um, are there particular industries where an insurer might take a sort of a stronger view on kind of scrutinizing or looking into safety practices, versus others? Is there a bit more of an in-depth looking into something like a mining sector than an office building, for example?
I mean, there certainly is, and we do look at the HSE statistics, read the HSE reports, look at those. I mean, some of the more obvious ones would be from both experience, claims experience, and looking at the health and safety executive information. Construction and agriculture
Mm,
are definitely ones which there's a focus on. Um, However, I believe that insurers are increasingly looking at industries and activities where employees may be exposed to risk from members of the public. Because I think that you've got your internal risk and your external risk as well, and what becomes uh, uh, less difficult to predict, and just so I think there's definitely people looking at underwriters and the industry looking at that too. The
mm.
risk from behaviour from members of the public is increasingly important, I think.
So by that you mean kind of like violence in the workplace, that kind of thing.
I do, and shop workers, delivery people, restaurant staff,
Yeah.
that just that mindful of the exposures that are presented to some of those workers.
Mm. I attended um, a sort of workshop led by an insurance claims law firm recently, and they had a presentation by somebody who was kind of in charge of security for a national group,
Mm,
and he was saying that the trend for that has really accelerated since COVID. This kind of violence in the workplace of members of the public,
yeah,
and I should have remembered the exact number, but the number of reported incidents of that. He sort of asked people in the room to guess, and it was kind of higher or lower, and everybody was massively undershooting. It was in the
really,
hundreds per day incidents
wow,
reported across the
gosh,
UK. So yeah, really something that you do
mm,
need to be mindful of. And I suppose that is
yeah,
something that could take a potentially a sort of lower risk sector into one that has a high risk because of that sort of third party involvement.
Absolutely. No, no, definitely.
Yeah. Um, so if we think about the sort of long-term benefits then of if you're an organization and you're maintaining a really good and strong safety culture, from the insurer perspective, what would be the kind of long-term benefits that would come from that?
I think long-term benefits definitely improved loss experience, both frequency and severity perspective. In the UK, we have escalating general damages costs, so improvements will lead to financial benefits for both insurers and clients. However, I think it's important to recognise that that's not the only consideration. That those long-term benefits, you create good behaviours, good cultures, it improves and improves and improves, and then brings further. And that you increasingly see everyone taking an ownership, an involvement in health and safety, and contributing to that continuous improvement,
Hmm.
I think.
There's a question here, Rob, just from the audience, a general question.
Okay.
What what would be the approach to a new business, so like a startup that doesn't have any statistics themselves? How would that sort of be underwritten? And obviously, you wouldn't do that yourself because you're dealing with bigger, much bigger organisations. But any thoughts on kind of how that would be? Would it just be sort of based on what sector they were in, for example?
I think initially you would look at the sector, you would consider the sector, the size of exposure, but to get a feel for what they were doing. I mean, we do see new startups and new operations. I think a really important factor is where possible to meet the insured, meet the client. So you can it really helps, and it really helps build that trust. You get the a sense of
Left, left, right.
what they're trying to
No,
do
dat
and
is
what
ons left.
culture trying to
Right,
improve.
dat is ons left. Dat
Oh,
is
sorry.
ons left. Oh,
Go on, Robbie, carry on. I just had
Hi.
to mute everyone.
No problem. No problem. So yeah, I mean, we do see some new startups, so new brand new operations, and there, I think it's really important to meet with the client, and uh, so you get a sense of what they're trying to achieve, what the culture is going to be, what their values are, and really take note of that. I think that the longer one partners with a client, the more open you become, the more dare I say predictable that becomes when it's a brand new startup. It is less predictable. There's no doubt about it. But I think it's very importantly there's an importance of meeting client and also from the meetings and relationships that one has with the broking community as well.
Hmm.
The you know when that you get that trust with the brokers who will be close to the client as well.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And you mentioned the sort of increasing uh, general damage costs. Is that something that kind of has mirrored more or less inflation? We've obviously had quite a strong inflationary period over the last few years. Or is
Mm.
that driven by kind of partly by sort of demographics and like healthcare costs going up? Or what are the sort of factors that fall into that?
I think it has those are drivers definitely, and also there was the recommendations of the Joint Council Tribunals, a recommendation for the I think it was the 22% jump in general damages that there are all those drivers and focus, and of course, as healthcare becomes more sophisticated and better as well with technology, new medical products and things, the cost of that does does rise. So I think these are all factors we see in increasing severity.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And we do have an aging population as well, don't we?
yes,
So
yeah,
with people working later in life and also sort of
mm,
more active in leisure later in life as well. And sadly, the older you
mm,
are, the more likely you are to be sort of more severely injured, I suppose, if you do have a slip, a trip, or you sort of
yeah,
manual handling or whatever it might be.
absolutely. And the consequences of it as well, I
Mm,
think, you know, because we are all living fuller and more active lives, and also that often have more later in life, more dependence sometimes as
mm,
well. More people do
yeah,
do do rely on us. So
mm,
there's those increasing as well as risk factors, and
yeah,
I am hopeful as well that with an increased focus on health and well-being, that we've got that counterbalance of improving everyone being more mindful of their own health and improving on what improves that. And employers and insurers taking these initiatives to improve health and well-being as well, by the services they offer, the information they offer,
yeah,
and so mm.
yeah. Great. Lots going on in the chat, which is great. I'll try and pick
Wonderful.
up
Sorry,
some of those
so,
points.
sorry.
uh,
I'm focusing on. I'll get to the chat and read through as well. But I'm delighted to see there's lots of activity on that.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Don't worry.
great.
I'll
That's
try and
great.
monitor that. Don't worry. I'll
Oh,
try and
thank
monitor
you.
that. You
Thanks,
just
Christian.
concentrate on trying to give us good
Yeah.
coherent answers like you have done so far.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
in terms of kind of emerging trends and
Mm.
how those influence insurance practices, or I suppose vice versa, what are you kind of seeing there? Well, what's happening in safety that is having an effect on insurance,
Yeah.
inversely, what's happening in insurance that's having an effect on safety?
Mm, sure. I think what I and often those conversations you have with people and often with people outside of our industry, there's often complaints raised about health and safety or the the world, the country becoming too health and safety focused. But with the investment in health and safety that's taken place over the last few years, definitely, we definitely saw improvements in frequency of claims and accidents. You could see it. You could see trends coming down, which is fantastic, and genuine benefits of that focus and investment in health and safety. However, I, I do believe, and that we're seeing severity of claims is is on the increase, on the climb, um, and also another trend which we're seeing is that physical injury is often accompanied by an element of psychological injury. Forming part of the claim, almost like for our property colleagues, almost like a consequential loss. That you see a physical injury, and I think probably as there's been a greater emphasis and focus on mental health, which is only right and absolutely right, that people are more mindful of the fact that forming part of a claim as well. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And data is obviously you know something that is at the forefront of people's minds at the
yes.
moment, and you guys in the insurance world have huge amounts of data. If you think about the sheer number of clients that you would be dealing with, both
Mm.
um, commercial and in sort of personal lines, I suppose. So how important is that, and what kind of role is data analytics playing in, I suppose, helping you guys to predict what's going to happen and also then to mitigate risks and try and be preventative?
Yeah, absolutely. Feedback of data is always incredibly useful and helpful. We do use it. We look at it, um, but I'm very aware and mindful of the fact that we should always be questioning what's behind the numbers. Why is that happening? As an underwriter, you're often I'd say almost always looking for patterns. Is there a pattern here? Why is there a pattern? Or is there a pattern at all, or anything? And just to question really what the numbers really showing. I'm a huge advocate of technology, love technology, and but it's really, I think, often as an underwriter and as an industry and clients, we just need to sometimes think and question what's happening behind those numbers. And are there any other factors which could be influencing the numbers as well?
Mm.
That so you get a real deep consideration of the correlations and the interdependency, I think.
Yeah, and one of the things you said earlier was, it's about the relationship as well, isn't it? And having those
Mm,
conversations. It's not just about. I think that's probably one of the kind of misperceptions that people would have is that it's all just about a big database and a big spreadsheet and crunching the numbers, and it's not just about that. There's
no,
more
absolutely.
depth and breadth to it
Yeah,
than that. But obviously, the better the data, the more straightforward these things can be, I suppose.
definitely. And you've got that wonderful combination between technology and people. So you're mixing both, so you get the best, hopefully the best of both as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
yeah.
mm.
Daniel, you've got your hand up. Did you want to come and ask Rob a question?
It wasn't as much a question for Rob. It was actually in support of what he was just saying, but also
Hmm.
to add a bit of texture around it.
Okay.
I've had the benefit of working with AXA XL for many years within PepsiCo and other businesses and with multiple other insurers. And I think the key thing is that data is brilliant and data tells you an awful lot of information, but the context around that data can be as useful. And when you're dealing with your insurers, to actually discuss that information with them and to explain the circumstances around it and what you've done to try and either prevent or to work after that event to change can have a huge influence on them. And we were very beneficial that our partnership with AXA XL in certainly PepsiCo Europe, but globally, has had some significant benefits for our business in terms of being able to invest in new technologies and learn from their experience from other industries because you get focused on what you do, they see a broader picture and they can bring good practice from other industries to you. So I would advocate for working really closely with your insurers, their technical experts as well as their underwriters to get that broader understanding of the business.
Thank you, Daniel. Agree completely, and really appreciate your client's perspective, bringing that in.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. I think, it's very easy to get stuck in a silo mentality. And even if you're in a big business, you may well be doing things pretty well. I'm sure you are. But that doesn't mean that there aren't things you can learn from other similar businesses. And actually, your insurer and other, partners as well can be a conduit to that by sharing knowledge and experiences. Um, and even businesses that aren't similar to yours, you can always learn something from somebody. But it's about drawing those dots, isn't it? And um, uh, you know, having those insights, and you get that by, as you just said, Rob, having the conversations and having the relationships.
Yes. Yeah.
And they've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, so they can tell you when you're doing things wrong.
Always a learning experience, definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've spoken about data. In terms of like technology, then obviously
Mm.
we've got AI is a massive thing that people are interested in at the moment. But and there's a really thriving insurtech scene, isn't there? Where there are all these companies sort of that have been built to try to add value to the insurance world in all sorts of different ways. So technology is obviously something that's quite heavily involved in the sector. Um, where would you say insurers are kind of seeing the most current benefit um, or current excitement? And then I suppose where's the long term picture on that as well?
I think it's really important that we join in the conversation on AI as well, artificial intelligence, because I think there's some really, really interesting developments from it. And I think it could potentially have really positive impacts on health and safety. Particularly, I've seen some great examples of it, and chatting with some of my motor colleagues, that particularly for commercial drivers, and seeing that from clients as well. Seen some great examples of good AI improving health and safety. So seen examples of where um, you have AI picking up, say, potential lapses of concentration or distraction, and giving little cab warnings for that.
Mm.
Really, really positive, and not from a fear perspective at all, but a very much, which I'm trying to help keep alert, good practice, best practice too. So, and in machine guarding as well, increasing use of AI for operators, for maintenance people, some really, really good use of the technology there. So I think it's really important that we as insurers, clients, broking community, and experts join in that conversation of what we want from AI, because I think it can give a lot. I mean, there are some things where, okay, if we see it racing ahead, I think it's important that we think about and choose what we want from AI,
Yeah.
what we want it to do for us, really. Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, agree with that definitely. Um, Ross Thompson, you had a question for Rob, but you said you couldn't get your hand to raise. Do you
Yeah,
want
for
to?
some reason it wouldn't raise for some reason.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, as I work as a risk manager, so I'm already with you as an advocate for the value that health and safety knowledge can add to the insurance side of things. But one of the difficulties that I can already see yourselves encountering is that the time constraints in terms of getting that quality of information from your clients on
Yeah,
their health and safety performance, their health and safety data. And there's always often an element of having to sort of take them at the word, if you will. And I kind of just wondered if you had any thoughts on how you sort of go about mitigating that and ensuring that with your limited resources at times, how you guarantee that quality of information.
Yeah, it's time constraints are difficult, I think. But it is, because everyone is under time and demand pressure. But I think that for me, you can't underestimate the value of meeting with clients. Not only seeing physically what happens at a client's presence, but meeting them, understanding the way they work, what their objectives are, what their difficulties are as well, and just talking those through, and looking at them, and bringing ideas together. I think that they really value. Trying as well to, again, I know time constraints are difficult, but trying as well to work with our claims people as well, and claims people and adjusters, and just getting that knowledge of what's happening on the ground as well can be so valuable, and seeing if how you can bring that whole loop together of claims, health and safety, production, clients, where it really everything joined up. I think the value of that is huge, and we do see it when you do this. You do see it. I believe on improving claims experience. Is that, sorry? I hope I didn't go too off piece there, Ross. But
No, no, like I
yeah,
say, I'm completely with you on that, and that is what in
yeah,
my role I'm trying to achieve is that joined up
mm,
thinking and that
yeah.
quality data. I guess another question leading off that would be is, do you have any sort of examples or ideas of what the impact of that, if we don't put that time in, we don't build those relationships, what sort of impact that misinformation can can cause for yourselves as underwriters?
Yeah, I think it's it's really you're getting I think the dangers of it are of misinterpreting what the numbers are saying. The numbers might be going one way, but you as a client might be busily working behind the scenes and saying, yeah, we know this is happening, we are addressing it, we're bringing this into being on it, we're very aware of it, and so it's just really a question. So that graph that you see, um, it 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 may not necessarily be on a linear progression. You might just say, oh, therefore this is plus 10%, therefore the next year it's going to be plus 10%, the next year it's going to be, and that accrual. Then it's really so that I think you don't misunderstand what's happening, and also that sometimes learning from near misses, say for example, a classic example really, learning from that, okay, that we've had this happen, this is what we're doing as a result of that, is can be, and if you don't use that opportunity, almost that free lesson of a near miss, then you can prevent something awful from happening, I think. So
Thank you. Yeah, that was good to hear your thoughts.
okay.
Yeah, good question, Ross. So
Yeah.
thank you for that one. So we kind of set the scene a bit there in terms of some of the trends that are going on. If we kind of move a bit more now into kind of the nitty gritty, I suppose, from the kind of safety audience perspective, and what you guys are specifically doing in this area. How would an insurance company kind of traditionally um, have supported or would support clients in improving their safety standards? What would be the ways that they could help?
Yep, I think traditional ways have been the offering bursaries, so offering some financial amount or incentive to discuss with clients and brokers how to best use that where there's a particular need, where that could have an impact for the business and the risk. Profit shares can often was often a traditional way, and still is. At some point, particularly on employers' liability, I remember that swing type deals had quite a lot of popularity. Could see the sense of it, really, but that was another way of of in of rewarding, incentivizing good health and safety.
So
But
that would be sort of the premium would be driven by the claims effectively.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So incentive, but yeah, there are other ways.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
are other
I mean,
ways.
I guess
Mm,
there are also you guys have a risk management team as well, so you
we
can
do,
come and get as Daniel said earlier, you can get advice and best practices, and then there's that kind of consultancy sort of
absolutely.
hand holding help as well, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely, and I was really pleased Daniel said about from the broad spectrum of different types of clients and industries, or people working in similar sectors to that client, and just say actually we've found this and this has worked well, or we've learned this from another something that's gone wrong, and
Yeah.
being able to share that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's not good. So one of the things that AXA XL has done is you've developed a sort of an innovative, a newer way of approaching this, which you call
Mm,
casualty risk assist. Um, Full disclosure that we're a partner in this as
sure.
well. But perhaps you could give us
Yes.
an overview of kind of what that what that is and how it works, Rob.
Yeah. No problem at all. So to put it very simply, it's four key areas of support for clients. There's slip safety, working with yourself, Christian. There's, which I know we'll go into a little bit more detail in a moment. But there's log incident, which is a risk which is an incident management system and data analysis, and a more immediate incident management system with immense flexibility in the data output and analysis. That's seeing we've got a live example of that on the go at the moment, where we've just been able to provide a client with data that they've really wanted, and in a format that they can share with their management, and saying, look, this is what's happening, this is what's making a difference, these are the trends we're seeing. So good,
Fantastic.
great output there. There's all these very close to the action with clients. I believe there's the pristine conditioning, which is a practical lifting and weight bearing training, excellent training, making a huge difference right on the ground, right on the shop floor, for clients involved, because we do still have to lift things,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's a part of working life, and that can make a huge difference as to great training and ownership on how that takes place. And we've got former Olympic weightlifters who have input into that. So
yeah.
great
If you ever get the
experience and technical
chance to, yeah,
expertise.
if you ever get the chance to listen to Davey Snowden do a talk, it's really um, entertaining, but insightful as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely, and inspiring as well. You just think, oh,
Yeah.
definitely. And also IPRS, our partner, which manages absence in terms of musculoskeletal injury and strain and support, which is a very important part of health and safety, and psychological assistance, either accompanying that or not as well. So
Yeah.
for better health and safety workplace improvement. So it's those four areas really: slip safety, log incident, pristine conditioning, and IPRS.
Fantastic. And how does it work in a sort of practical sense?
Okay, so the way it works is that we include elements of the service with any quotation that we offer, often as an introduction to the service, and therefore thereafter clients and brokers can elect how far they employ and engage those services. So there's almost like a taster, an example. So a very real hands-on example. Yeah, this is where we see the focus here. We come in and show and offer that, and then clients can make and brokers can make a decision how they want to roll that out, or go further
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, yeah. So obviously, you know, we're one of the partners. Really
Yeah,
proud to work with you guys. Be
likewise.
interesting to just dig into that a little bit more. So, I mean, how big a problem are slips and trips for insurers? Have you got any claims data or stories or case studies or anything like that?
I mean, we do look at the slips and trips. It's still a very important part of frequency of claims data, both from employers' liability and public and products. So it's really important, and I think that as we're seeing as well, that it's an increasing risk of severity as well, severity of claims. Now, as you mentioned, Christian, that part of that might be because of the aging population and us getting
Mm,
more active, all of those factors behind that. But we are seeing definitely that whilst you could almost see slips and trips bumbling along the bottom of a claims experience, all of a sudden you can get a shock that there's
mm,
a really high one in there as well. And behind that, it's not all about the numbers behind that, but maybe a case of genuine suffering and and a serious story. And yeah, it's a very important area, without a
yeah,
doubt,
yeah.
without a doubt.
I know AXA UK, which obviously is a different.
Mm,
I don't know
yeah,
what the right phrase is. A different business unit or something, whichever the right
sure.
way phrase is for
Yes.
you guys. But they have some data on their website from 2018, and they showed slips as being their largest cause of sort of health and safety related claim, which was £80 million in 2018, and then manual handling was next, which was £30 million. So that gives
Wow.
you a sense of,
Yeah.
um, a sense of that it is quite a costly thing.
Yes. That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And what would you say are, we mentioned the kind of demographic stuff, but any
Mm.
kind of trends or drivers that are involved in slip, strips and falls?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really interesting question, Christian. Sometimes I don't think it's as obvious as we think. And again, that's why I think it's really important to question what's behind the numbers, what's really happening. And I can't help but wonder if a driver for this can be the uncertainty and precarity of life and
Mm,
general mental health. Um, and how present are we in the moment? There's we've got distractions of mobile phones, concerns of personal and financial security, all relevant in our modern world.
mm,
And I think I remember there was one somebody from the industry of great deal of respect for was starting to do some analysis and on the correlation of the crisis in 2008 and accident statistics and as that economic crisis worsened the number of accident statistics he was trying to show from his research the those increasing. So can't help but wonder that there's a correlation there and something we just need to be mindful and aware of and how
mm,
we address that, how we did it. And yeah, yeah,
mm. We saw something kind of similar after COVID in that obviously with lockdowns and so on, the number of
yeah,
workplace accidents plummeted because people weren't going to work clearly
mm,
as much as they were. But then when things sort of returned back to a kind of quasi normal state, there was that kind of uptick. And I think that was, again, lots of research and thoughts on this, but I think a large contributing factor would be, you know, as you say, that kind of, uh, am I safe going back to work? Am I sort of
absolutely.
therefore really concentrating on what I'm doing? Am I present and am I in the moment, or am I perhaps a bit distracted?
Yeah,
Um, was the sort of training element redone as much as possible? And then also from a sort of slips and trips perspective, one of the things that maybe was a bit overlooked was, we were sort of walking in those kind of clearly defined walkways, but we were using parts of buildings that we perhaps weren't using before with the one-way systems. We had hand sanitizer stations across the buildings everywhere, which were
yes.
um, putting liquids on the floors where the floors weren't really designed for that. And, there are all sorts of things kind of layering upon one another in the sort of post-COVID age.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and I suppose last one from me, and then we'll take any more questions. What would you say are the sort of benefits of getting, um, any one of these four things, the four areas that you mentioned, but including slips, trips, and falls, the benefits of getting these right. There's benefits to the business, to people. Um, how would you see that and sort of quantify that?
Yeah, really. I mean, it's as well as the financial from the claims experience and premium spend. There's also the which I know are harder to quantify, but still nevertheless so relevant, the moral, ethical, and well-being
Yeah.
benefits of it all. Which we are people in the workplace. These things matter to us, and all of these factors will undoubtedly contribute
Yeah.
to those improvements and benefits.
Good stuff. Well, that was most of what I wanted to cover, Rob. But I can see there's a few people with hands up. So if we're okay, we'll take a few more questions.
Sure.
Uh, Christian, my namesake, you've got your hand up. Do you want to ask Rob a question? Oh, we're not getting you. I know you're not muted, but we can't hear you. Uh, See if you can
S-
figure that out. Viren, do you want to
Sorry,
come in?
Christian, I couldn't hear, but yeah.
Yeah, we weren't getting anything. Viren, do you
Mm.
want to come in?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi,
Yep.
Varun.
All right, perfect. Sorry about that. Yeah,
No problem.
I was just curious, my call did drop off for like about 5 to 7 minutes. I'm not sure if that question was answered on chat, but do you see any emerging risks or safety concerns that, businesses should be aware of, which could possibly affect their insurance coverage in the future?
I think emerging risks is a huge area, and it's one that I think that as an industry, brokers, uh, um, insurers, risk engineers, risk managers can input greatly in, and just to monitor all the time the impact of those emerging risks. It's a complex area. It involves science, and because they are emerging, we're not never. It's hard to say concretely the difference they make, but I think just the awareness is really important, and awareness, and look at the sources you're getting the information from as well, and seeing any emerging trends. I know we're really fortunate in the insurance industry and in the liability community, particularly of organizations like the IUA and the LMA, Institute of Underwriters Association, Lloyd's Market Association, sharing information. I know you've got people like Tony Gregory of Insurance Market Conferences sharing a lot of information on these factors. So I think it's really important to be informed and research it. But as I say, emerging risks, it's difficult to draw concrete conclusions from, but that whole awareness and education is really important, I think.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you. Bella asked a question in the chat. Would insurers be potentially willing to cover the cost of health and safety training programs? So that kind of would fall under the bursary kind of question, I suppose. Is that something that people might consider potentially in the right circumstances?
And I think it's something that insurers do consider if they can help with and contribute to, and partner with, and it's a conversation to be had, I think, and it's definitely a conversation to be had, and see how that can help and work with.
My experience is it's always worth having a conversation and asking a question
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's like anything, isn't it? If you've got that relationship, as you said,
Mm.
and if you've got some data and if you've got a clear pitch or proposition of what you'd like to do, and you can sort of explain the value and the benefits of that to the insurer and how it can benefit all parties involved, then in my experience, often that they're willing to consider it and have that conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. Christian, have you figured out your microphone? No, we still can't hear you.
Sorry,
Put your
Christian.
question in the chat. Nigel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just a little point. So, just so Robert knows, yes, I've been in the insurance industry for 43 years as a retail broker, but I'm also a qualified continuity consultant. So the biggest thing always when I talk to clients is, one, you're quite right, go and see them, look at the stuff, go
Yes.
and see, touch and feel it. It also shortens the process because you've got a lot of answers just by sight and questioning.
Absolutely.
But the most important thing for clients is, whether they're starting a new business or they're doing a review of their existing operations, is to consider everything that could interrupt the activities or the income stream of the business, whether it's insurable or not. Because even if it is insurable, those things fall out of the back end and you get them insured, but you still need a plan for what are you going to do after. If you stood in the car park with all your people safe and ticked off the box and then looking at a burning building, where is my stock? What my customers are going to do and so on.
Yeah.
So you need concrete plans whether you can insure something or not. And that starts off by vulnerability analysis, looking at the likelihood and severity of various things and determining which one's the most high priority for you. And I generally come to top 5 and we work on those to start with. Whether you can insure them or not, you need good plans. So yeah, that's where you start.
Thank you, Nigel. That's a great explanation.
Good stuff. Thanks, thanks, Nigel. Rosa, probably take one or two more, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, hi there. Afternoon. Thanks for another informative session. Just a quick one, really, to regards to impairment procedures. So fire protection, impairment. Just wanted to know what your take is on in terms of the time frame. By when I mean time frame, how long would you say that this system is down before we would need to notify an insurance company? Some are saying 10 hours, some are saying even a couple of hours if the alarm fire system was down. Just wanted to know what your take on that was, really.
Raza, that's a great question. It's one, without a doubt, more for my property insurance colleagues, and I'm a liability specialist. But if you pop the your contact details in through to us, I'll ask one of our property experts to come back to you on that.
Okay, I will do. Yeah, it's just some insurance providers say 10 hours if the system is down for 10 hours. Others say if it's going to go offline for even a 2 hours service,
right,
then we need to be notified as an insurance company. And it's like, well, hang on, routine maintenance can take a few hours. Do we really need to notify anyone? Every single time the system is under test. So
there'll definitely be somebody that knows the answer to that, but it sadly it probably isn't Rob or I.
But no, do pop your contact details in, and
I would say if it's going to go overnight, that's when you would need to insure it. If you can fix it during the day and it's routine, then not a problem. But if you think it's going to extend through the night, then that's the point at which I'd be concerned. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay.
Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good stuff. Christian, who was trying to ask a question, he has put something in the chat. So it was around sort of trends and technologies, net zero. What do insurance companies think about that? How are they working in that area? You know, what's kind of going on in that space at a high level?
The whole net zero and trends and it's a factor that we're studying. It's complicated. There's no doubt about it, but we're just trying to bring as much intelligence to it as we can and look at it and analyze it and feed that back into both ourselves and the industry as well, and clients, and have that discussion. So as I'm sure Christian won't be surprised, not an easy answer, but it's something that we are all definitely working on together. Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, look, thank you so much, Rob, for sharing your time and your insights today. Been really valuable, and I'm sure the audience has learnt some great stuff. If people want to get in touch and follow this up, I guess LinkedIn will be a good place for them to do that.
Yep, that'd be great. No, LinkedIn's great, and really appreciate everyone devoting time to come in and listen and be with us. Really do.
Thanks very much, guys, and we'll look forward to seeing you on another Safety Roundtable in a couple of weeks' time.
Thanks, Christian. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Great. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Safety and Risk Success podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit follow and do share on social media. Does anyone you know spring to mind as a great guest, even yourself? If so, please contact us on podcast@slipsafety.co.uk. See you next week for another episode.